So I go up to bat, and as soon as I'd set up, my shoulders would dislocate because of the position. And then I'd swing, and as I follow through in the swing, my shoulders would also dislocate.
I think that having EDS doesn't mean the same thing for every person. So how it affects one person might be different than how it affects another person. And really it's kind of like what life is all about anyway. We don't really know what another person is living through. We don't know another person's reality or situation or pain levels that day. I can look great. I can sit here in front of you and what's wrong with her?
I am almost 40. I'll be 40 in June, and I was diagnosed last summer right around my 39th birthday. I was kind of relieved. You know, I wanted an answer for my fibromyalgia, and I thought it was all in my head, like everybody tries to say fibromyalgia pain is in your head, but I didn't believe that was true. And I had done a lot of research on it. So when I first got diagnosed, I was relieved. It's like, okay, now I have an answer. And then I realized that it was going to change the way I was able to be involved in roller derby and fitness, and then it was really hard.
When I was diagnosed, I was having problems walking, and I had used, I was in bilateral leg braces to walk all the time, and I had an electric wheelchair to help me ambulate some of the times. I mean, I was so bad, I couldn't hold a full-time job. I had stopped working as an art teacher. When I found out I had the diagnosis, it was like relief, because there's a reason I feel this way. And then you go through a phase where you're angry that you have this thing, even though you're grateful that you know what it is. And then you kind of come to like this acceptance, like, okay, I have this thing. I'm not gonna be angry about it. This is the way things are. And then you go through, it's weird. It's like you go through almost like grief periods sometimes when you realize you have to give certain things up.
I was in gymnastics from the time I was 3 until the time I was 8, and I did it my entire sophomore year of high school, and then I had to stop because that's when all of the wrists and the shoulder injuries became apparent. And looking back now, I always just thought that I was extremely flexible and that, you know, it was no big deal that I could stretch really far, and that, you know, I never realized that things were actually becoming dislocated. I just thought that I was flexible and I had no idea. It was really hard. I struggled a lot. I was very upset a lot of the time. I didn't understand why I couldn't just be normal like everyone else and do what everyone else was doing. I definitely had to rely on the support system, my family and my friends, but we all got through it. So it was hard then, but I'm okay now because I've kind of learned to accept it and just move on.
I was a cheerleader competitively and for school, and my knees would dislocate a lot, so I had to wear a special knee brace for that. I was on crutches a few times for that, went to specialists. My younger sister was dealing with a lot of like the dislocations and stuff, and that's when I realized that and that we shared those, it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. It's not just your joints and your ligaments. There's a lot of things you have to be more precautious about, like scars, sunscreen. For me, my heart is a big one. So it's not just like one face, and it can take on many different phases and stages. I try not to let it be such an impact in my life as much as I can, because it's something that I can't change and I don't want it to take over my life. I'm a gymnastics coach now, so I have to be careful when I'm demonstrating things or spotting the girls and stuff, but it makes you more aware of your body.
I had to actually stop doing gymnastics, which is what I had been doing. It also caused me to have surgeries on my arms and my shoulders because at the time they didn't know that it was actually Ehlers Danlos that I had, and they were just trying to fix some of the issues that it was causing. I think the hardest part was accepting that I'd have to give up gymnastics. That was really hard for me. And the fact that I couldn't just go out and kind of do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, as far as those kind of things.
I love hydrotherapy. It's one of the things that has brought so much healing to me and helped me to get stronger and to be able to maintain the things I still do in my life. Sometimes being flexible so you can't do this, but maybe you can do this in a new way. Like being flexible and adaptive is really important and helpful. I think that's a healthy way for anybody to live, but I think it's especially important for somebody with EDS.
Yeah, I figured out that riding dirt bikes didn't hurt anything, so I started doing that several years ago. I don't even know how many. Ever since I started and I had to quit baseball, it's just been life.
I started playing roller derby in 2010, but I was constantly getting hurt, so I learned how to referee at the same time as learning how to play. My current coach said that I would be better, to be refereeing, so I wouldn't be so upset that I couldn't do the things everyone else could do, because every time I take a hit to the back, I collapse. And that would just be my knees giving out, and I didn't know. Since I was a kid, I had a hard time with my knees. I had my first knee surgery on my right knee when I was 15 years old. I was constantly spraining my ankles, just walking up and down the stairs, my knees would give out. I thought that was normal. It comes together irritable bowel syndrome. I've always had trouble with bladder control, which is, it's something that people don't talk about. EDS is it affects everything. And it affects my ADHD, and it affects how hard I had a time delivering my daughter, and everything, it all made sense. It was kind of a relief to know that it wasn't all in my head.
I think that people just don't realize that it's as common as it is, especially in females, and that it also does affect males, just not as often. I've always just told people, you can't really see it, and I try to hide it the best that I can, but when it does affect me, there's really not much I can do about it, so I just, I try to make the best of it, and that's really all I can do.
I can't do some things that I used to love to do. I can't live the life that I used to live. Even just mentally, sometimes my mind goes faster than my body will keep up with. So that'll set me crazy sometimes. But then when you accept that part of you, life becomes so much easier. I've read this so many times where people get frustrated when people say, well, you look great, you look healthy, you look fine, and they get offended by that. I'm like, I'm not offended. Tell me I look good. I guess it's frustrating because you feel like they don't understand the pain that you live with on a daily basis and the disabilities and challenges that you have. But how could they? I mean, this thing is crazy. So, how can you understand when somebody, it affects so much of what you do throughout the whole entire day? You can't expect them to understand that. That's and in that sense, I mean, we're all practicing, trying, hopefully getting better at empathy and understanding somebody else's reality, even though we don't experience it ourselves. So whether it's EDS or something else, I mean, we're all hopefully doing that.
It's important for us as Ehlers Danlos patients to be advocates for other people and to help other people if there's something that they don't know. We need to educate them.
Everyone needs to understand that whether it's EDS or depression or all these invisible things that could be going on, you never know what someone's dealing with, and you have to be understanding as you can without being judgmental. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not there.
The zebra is a symbol for the community because the EDS is considered rare, and they're taught in medical school when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.